So let me just start by welcome all of you to the COVID-19 job site safety information session. Today we'll cover our learning objectives, which we hope will empower each of you with accurate information and a consistent, unified message to share with your team members to help them safely continue to work or return to work as needed as North America begins to reopen. We have 4 learning objectives today. The first of which is to understand COVID-19 transmission, symptoms, and prevention. I think we're all relatively aware of that, but we want to make sure that we are thorough and comprehensive in our delivery of those items. The second is to become informed on employer and employee responsibilities to implement job site protocols that limit the risk of exposure and transmission amongst installers and project managers. This is about working safely, zero harm. I want to be aware of business practices that can be implemented to help you manage through this pandemic, things such as virtual selling, pre-construction meetings, and project management tools. And then fourth, enable you to develop a plan to communicate adjustments effectively to all stakeholders, workers, customers, and regulatory enforcement involved to enable your business's continuity. We've assembled the information contained in the slides that we're going to go through and in the job site resource guide from NAHB, CDC, OSHA, and our own EH&S experts, and as well as several large builders and stars who have shared their learnings thus far. Your local James Hardie and Lansing team have also been armed with this information. Today, we'll review the slides here and the COVID-19 job site resource guide, and then you'll be provided with these tools following today's presentation. We also spent some time discussing the Lansing no-touch delivery service. Please, if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask them, as well as comments. Please enter them into the chat box that we talked about earlier. We will answer the questions as they come up appropriately. If we do not answer your question right away, do not worry. We will answer it in time as we enter a Q&A section following the presentation. With that said, I'm going to hand it over to Josh Moore. Josh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
There we go. So I was saying good morning or good afternoon to everybody. Appreciate you joining us. My name, as Jim said, is Josh Moore. I am responsible for our installation segment across North America. And so I'll be spending some time walking you guys through a few slides on, as Jim said, COVID-19 and some job site guidance that we've both aggregated from OSHA and our relationships with NAHB and put that together for you guys into a job site safety resource guide, which we hope will empower you guys to educate every stakeholder out there on the job site, from the project manager to the crew members on the wall, to work safely in this new environment. So starting off, just a legal disclaimer, this information is being provided as a public service to the members of the construction community and users of Hardie's products. As Jim said, all the information is really, we just aggregated this information from NAHB, OSHA, the Construction Industry Safety Council, obviously the CDC as well. But it's important to just say that it's always incumbent on you guys as employers to make sure you check with state and local authorities, because there is a lot of variability as different markets go back to work as to the standards that are out there for construction crews. Moving on, in this section, we're going to cover, let's talk about our commitment to you. I forgot this slide, my apologies. As a trusted partner, we really focus on providing you with the support and resources that you need. And this is not just in the COVID-19 pandemic, but in general. It's a big part of what my team focuses on, is how can we help you guys be more successful when working with our products and completing your projects to meet your goals. But we're committed here to providing you with an overview of COVID-19 and specifically the actions you can take to support safe business practices, sharing suggestions to build and execute a pandemic response plan, including all those necessary adjustments to ensure business continuity for you, and then providing the recommendations on how to communicate that plan and your preventative actions to both your employees and your customers. So starting out, we'll cover off on kind of what COVID-19 is. I know everybody knows this, but we feel it's important to speak with a consistent message towards the market, you guys as our customers and end users in this case. We'll also cover the Job Site Safety Resource Guide, and then Jim will take us through some additional information around specific business practices that you can implement to enable you to be successful through this pandemic. So as you see here, COVID-19 is a disease caused by a new coronavirus and can lead to severe respiratory illness or pneumonia and can be fatal for people, especially those with underlying health conditions. How it's spread, there's been a lot of learning over the course of the last few months in this case, but it's primarily by droplets caused by coughing or sneezing, close personal contact, such as touching or shaking hands, and then potentially touching an object or surface with the virus on it, then touching your nose, mouth, or eyes. How can prevention be accomplished? Sorry, trying to follow my notes here. Number one, as everybody knows, washing your hands. Second, avoiding contact with sick people, primarily through practicing 6-foot physical distancing on the job site and in public, and then avoiding touching your hands to your face, making sure people stay home when they're sick, covering mouth or nose with a tissue or sleeve when coughing or sneezing, and then wearing a face covering or personal protective equipment solution whenever you can't maintain that 6-foot personal distance. What are the symptoms? Pretty straightforward here: fever, dry cough, shortness of breath. Primarily, symptoms may appear anywhere from 2 to 14 days after exposure. And then lastly here, we're going to jump in, I think, to where the meat and potatoes is, which is our job site safety information. So we're going to start by looking at really what OSHA and government authorities are speaking toward. And a lot of this was developed early on with the NAHB, and some folks on my team played a role in participating with really figuring out how to do that. But just like any other part of safety plans, there are employer and employee responsibilities. It's important both stakeholders are clear on what those are. So it starts with the employer preventing sick people from entering the job site in the first place. Number two is conducting frequent job site risk assessments. Every job site's a little bit different, and so it's important to look for areas where bottlenecks may occur that force people to work closely together. That's primarily what you're looking for. And I know you guys work in many different terrains out there, so paying attention to each specific job site is the employer's responsibility to identify where those risks are. Developing a written plan with controls or procedures to reduce or eliminate the risk of exposure to the virus. Educating and updating your employees on COVID-19 safety guidelines for your business, and then providing appropriate PPE following local orders and OSHA and CDC guidelines to your employees and crews out there working on the job site. Now we shift to employee responsibilities, Their primary responsibility at the beginning is to stay home if they're sick or have been exposed to anyone who in their household or elsewhere who've become ill or tested positive for COVID-19. Identifying that early is one of the biggest parts of preventing transmission in any environment. Number two, immediately reporting any symptoms of COVID-19 to their respective supervisor, whether that's their crew foreman, the field project manager, or even the installation company or remodeling company owners. Number three, following your employees' COVID-19 safety plan, as well as state and local government orders. And number four, practicing 6-foot physical distancing, disinfecting on and off the job site, and using appropriate face masks and work gloves. Some additional steps to limit risk on the job sites, and I'll talk a little bit more about these as we get into the next few slides as well, to provide hopefully some more suggestions that are helpful on how you accomplish this. But under physical distancing, probably one of the first changes that needs to be made is preventing carpooling to the job site as much as possible. I recognize not everybody can drive individually, as well as there might not be parking scenarios where that's feasible. So that if your crews have to ride share, they should wear a cloth face covering and make sure they keep the windows down on the way to work and on the way home. Number two, reducing the number of people, whether that's visitors or workers, to the very minimum necessary. Local health orders in some cases do specify a maximum number of people per site, so make sure this is an area where you know what your local government has decided. That being said, if you can accomplish the job with less manpower mobilized out there and define what each person's role is more clearly, this will help prevent the violation of kind of that physical boundary. And then thirdly, employers and contractors and subs should cooperate to arrange work areas, materials, and equipment to accommodate physical distancing. And we've got some graphics coming up that help show how to do that. In the middle bucket there, disinfecting, so making sure we wipe down work areas, high-touch surfaces like tools that we may share. The second bullet there, try to avoid sharing tools and equipment, obviously phones and work surfaces, and then make sure disinfecting is happening before and after sharing. And again, in some areas of the country, it's now required to have hand washing stations and different solutions in the toilets on the site. So make sure you're following state and local guidelines there. And lastly, PPE. We all know about wearing masks, so it's especially important when we can't avoid that physical proximity. So make sure we are providing masks, that people are wearing masks, that they're not sharing masks. If they do have to share, there's appropriate disinfection happening. I think it's important we train people on the right way to put the mask on, wear the mask, and if the N95 respirator masks are not available or are short on those, there's other solutions you can implement to minimize the transmission out there on the site. So let's jump over a bit to our job site distancing suggestions. And so these really come from us talking to a number of siting crews out there early on as people were figuring out how to actually engineer this physical distance on a job site. Unlike a roofing crew where each individual can largely work independently, when you get to siting, there's a lot of interaction, or not a lot, but there are specific points of interaction that happen between crew members. This is true with other trades like framers and even some of our masonry outfits that we see out there. So it really begins out there on job site distancing with designating assigned work areas. And this is where there may be a difference in practice. And when we really looked at this, we tried to account for like what's the most efficient way that we can organize the manpower on a job site so that they can maintain that physical distance through the day almost without thinking about it. And so it begins by designating assigned work areas so that one installer per wall section or per wall area, and that there's a break between those two wall areas so that the two installers on the wall don't necessarily need to interact. And so you see there in the yellow boxes, each installer in this example has been assigned a wall area. The cut station is placed away from them, but proximal enough so that they can feed both areas of the wall as they cut. And the second part is establishing drop-off zones. This is just locations where after the guy that cuts the material, he has to hand that material off. Often if it's small pieces, that's going to cause those two guys to interact beneath that 6-foot window. Easy solution to that is just having a couple areas near each guy's workstation or work area where you can drop and stage cut material so that when the installer is ready to hang it, he can go to that area, pick the material up, and the cut man can keep cutting. Doesn't have to just stand there on the job holding up a piece of siding. And the installer doesn't necessarily need to stop what he's doing on the wall every time the cut man's ready to hand a piece. And so that can help even with efficiency. And the last part here I'd say is just if you are inside of these work areas, the installers can largely not have to think much about doing their job differently. If you're outside of these work areas, like you're moving around the job site, then they need to pay special attention to their distance from other workers on the crew. The next place where we see crews get together or risk getting together quite frequently is when you're unloading the trailer in the morning or the van and moving all your tools to your work areas. And then obviously at the end of the day, when you break all that stuff down and you reload it into the van or trailer. So first change you would want to make here is to designate one person on the crew to do all of the unloading and loading work inside that vehicle. That's an enclosed area, so higher risk of transmission. So if you have one crew member who simply unloads everything from the van to these designated drop-off zones you see here in the graphic A, B, and C, and they can take the tools and equipment that installer A needs or installer B needs or the cut person needs, and they can set those into specified zones there on the lot that are 6 feet apart. And then the other workers on the crew can simply come to that area and move that stuff where they need it to get started. Same thing at the end of the day. This is where they return their stuff so that the guy can reload the trailer. Pretty straightforward, I think, in that sense. What you're trying to accomplish is just make sure people maintain their distance in those areas. And you may want to consider rotating which crew member is responsible for loading and unloading. But in many cases, feedback we've gotten from crews has said this works out pretty well because the guy that drives the trailer in the van typically knows how they want it loaded and unloaded, and so it can be a thing that helps even with efficiency. And then the last area that we'll talk about here would be material staging. And this is true of lots of materials, not just hardy and fiber cement. But at the beginning of each day, typically the crew will decide how much material that they're going to need to hang that day. And so then they'll spend a minute just moving that material to the cut station to make sure that they've got everything they need to get started for the day. Next slide, Jim, if you could. So here we've got a graphic that just shows, material stacks typically are in one area on the job site. And, it's not uncommon for two guys to team up and move material in the old environment. Our advice here would be to try to carry material as individual workers as much as possible. So just carrying less pieces per trip, but maybe each individual is picking up 4 pieces of siding and moving it. And then the graphic is trying to show how you rotate so that you don't end up with 2 workers at the material stack at the same time, or 2 workers at the cut station dropping off that material at the same time. So if they can just alternate back and forth and make sure they stay apart as they do so, then that will prevent them from getting within that 6-foot range and still allow them to operate largely with business as usual. And so essentially, if you deal with those areas, kind of how we work through the day, that's the designating work areas slide graphic that we've shown you. And then you deal with how we upload and unload through the day. And then you deal with how we stage material. Then you're going to touch on probably 90% of the areas where crews need to interact. There are obviously some exceptions to that. When we're hanging big 4x10 panels on the wall, that's probably 2 people working together to do that. And so anytime you're in that condition, that's where your PPE and disinfection practices become very important. So I'd love to hear feedback and questions from you guys on this part. So if you have them, like Jim said, make sure you enter them into the chat box. And as we get closer to the end of this, we will be glad to take questions and answer anything specifically that you may have. Before I hand it back to Jim, I'm just going to touch on the safety resource guide that we've created for you guys. And the intent here was to enable you guys to take this document, share it with your workers, your crews, even your customers, to help show them the commitment that you're making as a business to create a safe working environment for your people and also safe projects for your customers. And so it comes in five pages here. You can see the first page is general information about the virus itself. The second page gets to the summary of employer and employee responsibilities, as well as those additional steps that you've implemented to limit risk on the job site. And then the remaining 3 pages are those graphics with some language around there that would help you train and educate a crew quickly on what changes they need to make to maintain that physical distance. And so we hope it's a resource that's helpful to you guys. Obviously, you can take what you need from that to implement into what you've already done. If you're already way down this path, then congratulations, you're definitely leading the pack. But at the end of the day, what we want to enable, just like I think what you guys want to enable, is just safety for the contractors out there that are building our communities. So with that said, I'll hand it back over to Jim, and he's going to walk you through some of the additional business practices that can be implemented to take this a step further.
Thanks, Josh. And just as I get into this section, as Josh pointed out, you guys can feel free to enter any questions or comments you have into the chat box. We'll make sure that we address them as needed here. Right now, I have nothing that's been entered, but I will call them out as they come through. So like Josh said, there's some there's some good opportunities for us to make some adjustments on the job site to make sure that we're practicing proper social distancing and enabling a safe work environment. But we also know that over the last 3 months, we've seen some changes inside of our businesses from a sales, operational, marketing, or even production support standpoint beyond that job site. And so what we wanted to do was take some time today to kind of go through those 4 buckets of work that happens inside your business today and talk about some opportunities that you may have to make some further adjustments to your business or make sure that you're getting the support that you need to have the business continuity that we know that we all want within your businesses. What's great about the timing of this is that we're going to go through this today, and then the team at Lansing has partnered with James Hardy to produce some digital webinars that kind of talk more thoroughly about some of the solutions available to help you address some of the needs that have kind of come to light in your businesses through kind of the pandemic period here. So that's it. I'm going to jump right into sales capabilities. Really, when you think about how do you successfully continue to sell as you would have prior to the pandemic, there's kind of 4 really big work areas that we think about. The first of which is having a good video platform, right? So determining a good platform that allows you to have continued face-to-face meetings with builders, with homeowners, and the like, that enables ease and comfort for you and your team. So whether you're using Zoom, Google Hangouts, FaceTime, and GoToMeetings, WebExes, or whatever else, it's really about making sure that you have a platform that's available and easy to use, that's cost efficient for your company, and still enables you to have that face-to-face interaction. We know that it's critical to be able to see, your buyer's face as you're speaking to them, so you can read their body language, you can read their kind of facial language, see their tone, and kind of pinpoint the areas in where they may have questions, concerns, or comments to make, right? Next up is having a good system to share proposals and documents, right? So some of us may have emailed proposals in the past, and we probably can continue to do that, but how do we share the rest of the documentation that's necessary to complete a sale? Maybe you have one-pagers or product catalogs or very product specifics or project specifics that you want to share. Make sure you have a good platform to do so as a best practice. And again, you'll see on the bottom of this bucket here that there's a lot of the same tools that are pointed out once again, right? So Zoom is on there again, Spectrum is on there again, right? A lot of times you can share documents through your video platforms. Even the WebEx that we're on today, if we wanted to, we can click on a button and share different documents with you. It's important, though, that you address the need for the potential signature elements as well, and so that would be things like DocuSign and whatnot. Moving along, you move over to standardizing and training a sales process. So, again, this is something that we believe all of you are probably very, very good at today is the ability to sell and close a sale. But what we want to encourage you to do is take a step back and think about whether or not you have a standard sales process and a standard way to train new employees to that sales process, right? So it's likely that you've made some adjustments to your process to make sure that you're closing at the same rate that you would have closed prior to the pandemic. Consider what those changes have been, and then consider whether or not those changes have been articulated to the rest of your team, and whether or not they have a good kind of standard operating procedure as far as how they speak to how your crews work on a job site. They speak to their maybe no home entrance policies or your safety practices, right? They have a good process to deliver information materials via web conference, right? So if you are doing that, that is great. If your team is doing it, that is great. If it's something that is scalable, that's going to allow you to grow your business and potentially take a lot of share from your competition who may not be doing the same thing. And then lastly on this slide, it's about communicating COVID-19 company protocols. So we all know that we have them at this point, and we may still be working on and adjusting them. But we've had to make adjustments in our business to how we do business. And so it's we want to make sure, again, that you're able to properly articulate that. And we hope that some of the information that Josh went through will help you further articulate your protocols and further develop your company safety guidelines so that you can project a safe work environment to your customers. Moving along, the next topic is around operational organizational efficiency. And you'll notice as we go through here in the next few slides, you're going to that become a bit repetitious, right? But it's important that you note what those are, because they're obviously things that we've identified that are opportunity areas and that will deliver returns for you as you address them within your business. The first is around building, communicating roles and responsibilities. So you have a bunch of people that work for you today. You know who to go to for what. Does everybody know who they're going to for what, right? Do you have proper roles and responsibilities that delineate who is responsible for specific activities within your business? Because as we work more outside of the office and in our homes today, we want to make sure that the ball doesn't get dropped on any specific project or workflow, because typically in the office, I could just ask one of 3 people to do something and know that they would do it. Today, I need to make sure that there's one person responsible for it. There is a timeline tied to that, and that the project there or that task work is getting done, right? So ensure that there's clarity on who owns what and how your work is organized and structured within the business. Secondly is thinking about budgets and forecasts, having clear goals and KPIs. So you started the year, you probably had an annual plan, you knew what you were thinking you were going to do, you knew what your project split needed to be and what that growth looked like for the different portions of your business, right? Have you taken the time to step back and think about how the pandemic has affected that, right? If I was closing at 30% and my lead rate went down by 10%, right, I now either need to close at a higher rate to hit the same forecasted goal that I had out there, or I need to readjust my forecast goal, or I need to reinvest in my leads to get them back to where we're supposed to be, right? So take the time to ensure your financial goals and metrics are correct, updated, and shared with the people on your team, right? This is a good opportunity for you to think about your cash flow and the potential impacts that a small business may have, not just today and tomorrow, but right by thinking about September, October, November, and going into the winter seasons. Reinforce safety. So you've heard us say this time and time again already, right? Ensure that your job sites have clear paths to safety by establishing clear expectations up front. Set those expectations with those that work directly for you, those that you subcontract to, and to those that you sell to. Build and enhance all company SOPs. So if we're going to have clear roles and responsibilities, we're going to have a clear standard sales process, we're going to have clear practices, then it's probably worth documenting all those things, because as we win in this environment, the hope is that our businesses grow, and as our businesses grow, we want to be able to quickly train and bring new employees up to speed, or as we bring on new sub-labor crews, we want to make sure that they are very clear on how we do business, so that it's an easy work environment for them to join in and help drive the success of your business. And then lastly is really about having a process to identify opportunities or challenges and seek assistance. So we know that you're going to have certain situations that are going to come up that maybe you didn't think about, you didn't plan for, and that's okay. That's an expectation, because nobody plans for business to change as drastically as it did. So what is your escalation process? How do you address the challenge of your business, or how do you identify opportunities and work together to take advantage of opportunities? You know as well as I do that the 2 companies that are putting on this presentation, James Harding and Lansing Building Products, we very much believe in being partners to those that buy from us. And so in part of that, we hope that you would be willing to reach out to us as well, so we can help you address those opportunities and challenges within your business. Moving on to marketing, a lot of what you're doing internally is being repeated here for you to think about doing externally, right? Communicating your company policy on COVID-19, updating your website materials, updating your social media to make sure that everybody knows that you are open for business and you are addressing the safety concerns, articulating some specifics on how you're doing that, and maybe the white glove experience that a homeowner or builder or crew may be getting by working with you, right? And then the second piece of it is really around making sure that you're taking advantage of the opportunities within the market, because we are hearing that there, is a slow in the opportunities to gain work, right? So leads that are coming in. So how do you maximize your access to those opportunities and maximize your returns on the opportunities that you do get, right? So part of that is using social media to help you either get referrals or evangelize the work that you are doing. And then the second part of that is, optimizing all free marketing and focusing on lead rehash. So you've done business for years and years and years. How do you make that business continue to work for you? Are you reaching out to more work that can be done with that same customer? Are you reaching out to that customer to offer incentives for them to introduce you to more work, right? Are you laying out kind of your desire or need to continue to do work, and make sure that those that you have serviced in the past are kind of doing their part to build your brand for you. Lastly, the production piece, we talked a lot about job site safety in the first part of this presentation, but we all know that production isn't just on the job, right? It's about how we manage those jobs, right? So just like when we talk about the sales portion, we want to talk about production and project management the same way, right? We still want to have a capability to conduct meetings virtually whenever possible. So construction and design meetings can be done this way. Even job site visits can be done this way using tools like Company Cam, even FaceTime and things of that nature, to just make sure that you're seeing what's going on. You're able to inspect and assure that the projects are happening as you would have delineated in the SOPs we talked about earlier. Secondly, providing a thorough scope of work to the install crew, the homeowner, the builder, anybody that's working on the project should have a clear scope of work. Especially important today that you have this, not just because it makes it easy for you to do business with, but additionally so because it will limit the number of change orders that are necessary on any given project, right? So you're avoiding any type of disruption or need to visit a job site and potentially put yourself in a place where social distancing becomes effective. Of course, providing COVID-19 protocols to crews, homeowners, and dealers is something that we've talked about previously, and we're going to continue to talk about it here, right? Make sure that you have your policies posted on your job sites, that your crews know what the policies are and that they're abiding by them, right? And that last piece, abiding by them, is addressed in the last bullet, which is around virtual job site management, right? So how do I use visual management to ensure that a job site is set up and running properly? How do I leverage technology? Again, I would call it a tool like Company Cam here to verify that, hey, the job site is set up properly. I do have just the one guy moving equipment around. I am making sure that I have 6 foot of distancing, setups within my job site. And then ensuring that all of that happens and you're still able to meet certain production thresholds from a square foot standpoint is critically important, right? So there's really a lot of information that's inside of those 4 buckets. The key here is really to think about what are my takeaways, what do I need to do, and how can I support that in my business. And so as we think about that, there's really two summary slides here. The first is safety with homeowners, right? Having that virtual sales process to limit physical distancing, having digital communication processes to make sure that you're not passing papers back and forth, knowing and articulating your responsibility and how your business practices proper safety standards, and then knowing how to articulate that relative to the small install teams and their commitment to safety. With homeowners, you want to make sure that you're pointing out your job sites and how they're set up hygienically, right? And that you have a zero home entry policy and how you execute that zero home entry policy. And then lastly, providing them with that peace of mind, right? The safety guidelines that Josh pointed out that you're able to print off or more likely send digitally to the homeowner via email so that they know exactly how you are doing business on their property. And then of course, the second summary slide is really around job site, right? So communication protocol, having pre-work communication and daily briefings, right? So how are you reminding the crews about safety standards? How are you ensuring that you're briefing them on kind of things that you saw yesterday or things that you've seen elsewhere that they should be aware of? Today, there was an article written by, or a website released by OSHA that was talking about kind of job site safety and what they will be doing for inspections on job sites, right? That's something that we would be able to articulate to our crews in a daily briefing. Having safety provisions, so make sure they have the right PPE, sanitizers, the right equipment, the right process in place for how they move things around the job site, right? And I think it's all about the homeowners having the right communication posted. So make sure that your crews feel safe working for you because you have standards in place. and of course, visual management controls. So with all that said, I know that it can feel like quite a bit of work that you might be needing to do within your business. Our recommendation is to take it one step at a time. It's likely that you don't have to make big, huge adjustments to your business, but small adjustments over time. And what's cool, what we've learned over the last really 18 months, not just the last 3 months in the pandemic, but really the last 18 months, is that these small changes and this small effort that you make to inspect very specific actions or processes inside your business actually return to you not just an immediate dividends, but really long-term scalable growth dividends, which is awesome. So I encourage you to take this presentation, review it, post with your support team, whether that's your James Hardie rep, your Lansing rep, or any group of advisors that you have in your business, and think about exactly what your protocols are relative to communication, relative to having standard operating procedures and proper job site setups. And think about the adjustments that you should make and the investments that you should make inside your business to ensure not just continuity, but growth. And again, I'll remind you that there are a bunch of webinars that are coming up through James Hardie and Lansing to kind of address some of the things that we have proven out, provide kind of an opportunity for you to grow and take advantage of the current situation so your business not only survives, but thrives during this time. So with that said, I'm going to take a quick pause and see what questions we have out there. During the pause, I'll kind of switch control to Kevin from Lansing, who will take us through their no-touch, contact-free delivery. If you have questions, as a reminder, feel free to pop them in that chat box, and myself or Josh will go ahead and address those questions. I'm not seeing any questions coming through right now. I'll let Kevin, you've got the control here. You can go and pop your screen up and carry on. If questions do come up, I'll hold those for the end. We'll address them at the end.
No, that sounds great. And you can see that screen, right? The presentation's up.
Sure can. You're in great shape, bud.
Perfect. Thank you, Jim. Guys, thank you for everybody being on this call. Again, thank you to the partnership with Hardie. Obviously, as Jim mentioned, it's funny how OSHA just came out finally with their standards. So Hardie has been really kind of ahead of the game attacking this COVID issue. They've always had great job site safety protocols, ones that a lot of people really should follow. All the COVID ones that he showed on there, we will make sure we have available for everybody in the field as well. So we will get that, make sure we have that posted for anybody that needs it. But this brings us to something that was really, important to us is with Lansing, we always want to bring good content to all of our customers, all of our associates, and provide the best service for our vendors as well. And we established a delivery app over the past year that has been very, very successful. And in turn, that really allows sorry, guys, I'm not sure where the feedback is. If someone can mute, it allows us to provide our customers really with a contactless delivery. So really when we do this, it allows all of our customers to have easy updates right at their fingertips. The app allows us to continue to conform to all COVID safety aspects of it, but it really was designed around our Delivering Excellence platform, just another one of those value-added services we at Lansing want to provide our customers. And that really Delivering Excellence platform is start to finish with any order we have. But in there, the app allows us to be able to import into the middle of that Delivering Excellence platform to when we are actually doing deliveries to the job site. If you're picking up material at the branches, this whole platform still follows, but the app itself is there that once you've placed an order with us, and then once we've actually scheduled a delivery and you have downloaded our app, you now have a visibility of your order and when that's getting ready to come up. So we basically provide you with easy updates right there at your fingertips, right there without preventing you from having to call in saying, hey, where's my material? When am I getting this stuff? And again, just one more way we're doing it. So it allows you to get real-time updates on your deliveries, from our warehouse to your job site, allows you to know when the deliveries are going to arrive, and that, again, that's important. You have a lot of times crews out there, if you're the crew itself, you're not sitting out there wasting valuable time and money. You know when you can actually get there to the job site, start working. So that saves on a lot. If you know it's not going to be there, you can be on another job finishing something up. Photos then are taken, uploaded to the app, confirming your order is correct and complete. The beautiful thing is once it gets into transition, you'll see when it's being delivered that day. We're working on some new technology as well into this. That'll be a little bit more pinpointing for our teams in the field to see. But once our drivers get on site, part of that safety check we do is they walk the job site before they ever pull material off their truck. And so from a safety standpoint, we're making sure we're ensuring that the material is put in the proper place. We walk the property, make sure that our guys don't get into a safety issue driving across maybe something that they shouldn't be driving across. That material is left strategically for the install crews to be able to do their job effectively when they show up. And also, especially if it's a remodeling job, I'm on a homeowner's property. So our guys are designed to introduce from a distance who they are. They're able to observe the property, make the deliveries on the property, and then in the app, you'll see your complete inventory of material, but then you also have pictures that will tie to it, allowing our drivers to release material, because you'll see everything that's on that job site, and you can cross-reference that to what's on the actual ticket we were delivering. And there's no need to be there to sign off on anything because you have a picture of everything that's there. And so you always then will have a detailed order history. Anytime you can go back to a job to know how much material you ordered. Maybe you're doing a very similar job. If it's a builder that is using similar house plans, they can go back to a similar job lot and see how much material was ordered. So it's very helpful to all of our contractors and all of our associates to make sure that we are not wasting each other's time, and we can be more efficient in it. So really, to sum, what you get with our app is a safe and contact-free process. Ties right in with where we are in this COVID world. Delivered materials, we can do that without a signature required. You have photo verification of all your delivered goods. It's real-time notifications of your order. And then we just provide you with a much higher level of service to your job sites, to your customers. And so we just, again, want to offer that high level of value-added service by being a Lansing partner. And also for James Hardy, one of the reasons why, they have chosen to really partner with us is because of how we take care of their material too. So we're all in the same boat going downstream, and we want to make sure that everything is as seamless and as productive as possible, because we realize that we're delivering very expensive presents to every job, and we want you to experience that white glove service, and hopefully that Lansing delivering excellence process and also our app allows you to do it. So with that, it's very easy to download, whether it's in the Apple Store or Google Play. So the idea would be we encourage any of our customers to download that, get with your local Lansing rep to help with that process. You will not be able to get anything set up in the app once you've downloaded it until we actually have a delivery scheduled for you. So it just gives you an excuse to get a delivery signed up with us as a contractor, so we can show you how this system works. But all of our associates in the field are trained to be able to discuss this, talk about it. We have a lot of collateral that's available for you to use. So again, we just really, really appreciate your time and your effort to be on this call. I think both tie in really well together with this COVID world we're in. So just on behalf of Lansing Building Products, Jim and the Hardy team, Josh, great to see you again. Thank you for your help and for what you've done for us. And this webinar series we have coming up, I think is going to be very, very helpful to a lot of our contractors in a number of different ways, that we're just bringing value and educating all of our customers on what is actually available to them to help make their business grow, make their business more profitable, and at the same time, make it done in a safe environment as well. So guys, with that, thank you. I'll turn it back over to you if there's any questions, but just want to say thank you again for your partnership and for allowing us to put these webinar series together. And this one, like I said, it's kind of ironic that the first day we're offering this COVID job site safety training, OSHA just finally came out with their own website. So we beat them to the punch, it seems like. So.
Darn right we did. All right, great stuff. Thanks, Kevin. I do not see any questions in the chat box or the Q&A. That's all right. If you have questions, there's still time to pop them in there. If you don't, no worries at all. Or if you want to ask them later on, you can reach out to any of your local James Hardie or Lansing reps. We'd be happy to get you your answers through them. We did record this session, so we will be passing this on to the Lansing team for them to publicize as they see fit. We'll also make sure that everybody has all the training material that we provided today in the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you all for your time very much. Kevin, Josh, Steve, I really appreciate your partnership on this today. Have a great day, everyone.
You got it. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.